Turning to our special report tonight, amidst new videos of police brutality, we begin with a simple fact. The current American reckoning for police conduct is not about new conduct. Take Will Smith, who both portrayed an officer on screen and has recounted his own experience with police harassing him in real life. Smith said it simply: the American racism is not getting worse, it's getting filmed. The videos, of course, are disturbing. The nation watched that slow killing of George Floyd and then watched that fast shooting of Jacob Blake. Police converting a routine stop into violence within 3 minutes, shooting the 29-year-old father in the back 7 times. This video evidence, clearly seen as new to some people, is leading to once rare indictments of police, driving calls for wider policy change. And yet, the very right to record police can also be met with resistance. Take this stop in North Carolina, an attorney holding firm as he lawfully taped an officer who then threatens to jail him for it.
Turn that off, okay?
No, I'll keep recording, thank you. It's my right.
Don't record me, you got me?
I will. Look, you're a police officer on duty, I can record you. And if you come to this side of the vehicle, I can keep recording you.
Turn it off.
I can keep recording you.
Turn it off and take a jail.
For recording you, I'm sitting in my car. I know my rights.
I hope so. I know what the law is.
I know the law. I'm an attorney, so I would hope I know the law.
Just that alone would take some guts. That officer sounds authoritative. He has the gun and the power. And that's a simple stop before any incident might turn from routine to dangerous. But this video evidence can actually change a lot, even in a system that uses such a high bar to ever charge any officers. Now, in these videos, you can always see 2 things: the police and the victim. When people watch a victim hurt or killed, understandably, that's a focus. But for these videos, remember, there are also 2 things you don't see. That's the subject of our special report now. 1, you can't see the person recording the video, who's both witness and participant to an unfolding event. And 2, you can't see the rules and pressure for the citizen surveillance of police power, how the system treats these videos. Tonight, we're going to explore both. While America has learned about victims of police violence like Freddie Gray and Walter Scott, and in New York, Eric Garner, and now this summer, George Floyd, we've seen those, but we know less about the people who risked a lot to tell the stories. They're not usually reporters or public officials or DAs. They're citizens with camera phones. So while most Americans know Rodney King, fewer know George Holliday, who back in 1991, a time long before cell phones, took out his Sony Handcam to his balcony at 1 a.m. to record this footage. Without this now infamous video, there may have been no Rodney King case, no trial, no protests, no LA riots.
White policemen and black motorists are at the center of 2 explosive cases. An amateur cameraman recorded it all.
An apartment dweller across the street took the videotape after hearing the fracas going on. The amateur cameraman said it appeared to him the suspect was attempting to cooperate when the beating with nightsticks began.
Attempting to cooperate. And he later recounted those pivotal moments to NBC.
A lot of people do that. I ran to the balcony, grabbed the camera on the way, and started filming.
You didn't really know what you were filming other than some sort of police activity?
Yes, yes. And when I got out onto the balcony, they were already hitting him.
Now, one can view his recording as an act of basic documentation, or of reporting, or even activism. But it was not a replica model at that time. You couldn't repeat that easily because home cameras were rare and expensive. The revolution in phone technology, of course, changed all that. The first major camera phone debuting in 2000. 7 years after that came the first iPhone. The focus then was on the fun new options available.
Hello.
Hello? Hello.
Hello.
Hello?
The phones kept coming. 4 out of 5 people now have smartphones. A consumer revolution that wasn't planned, of course, with tracking police brutality in mind. But that's one thing about technology. It can be used by the powerful, the government and these big companies. They gather tons of data and surveillance on us, but can also be turned on the state. In a society where the state openly kills people, unarmed, in broad daylight, you can see how some citizens would at least take their phones out to document it in the hopes of preventing the worst or providing accountability if the worst happens. Now, these citizen tapes are distinct from videos made by the state, like police body camera videos. Those can provide video evidence, they can serve accountability, but remember, the government controls them. That means their recording's not guaranteed. They may not come out fast, if at all, depending on local rules. And we're seeing controversies over police hiding body camera videos in many cases, including Breonna Taylor's. Or take the current Jacob Blake shooting in Wisconsin. It occurred in a place where a city council unanimously backed body cameras 3 years ago. But it's all been delayed, so there's no possible body cam video of that shooting, even as the citizen video went public, thanks to 22-year-old Rayshawn White, a resident who saw the incident from his apartment. We're not showing his face at his request for privacy. Or take 17-year-old Darnella Frazier, who filmed George Floyd's killing while walking with her 9-year-old cousin. So while we usually see the police and the victim, let's see this person and remember, as horrific as it is to even watch the tape of police taking 8 minutes to slowly kill Floyd, imagine being the person, a teenager, facing down that crisis in real time and taping it as the one thing she might do as the police were acting. Imagine not only the trauma, but the fear that those police might approach you next as you live out those 8 minutes live, an agonizing length of time, as Dave Chappelle, among many others, has emphasized.
This man kneeled on a man's neck for 8 minutes and 46 seconds. Can you imagine that? This kid thought he was gonna die. He knew he was gonna die. He called for his mother.
We only know those details because of Darnella Frazier's recording, the unseen citizen behind the famous video. And then there's the other thing we don't always see, how the system responds. This is super important because it tries to deter taping of police in many ways. First, did you know how many states have tried to ban these recordings? 10 say you can't secretly film people. Now, under pressure, courts have then ruled police can actually be held accountable on video because they're at work. Courts also had to overrule government attempts to punish the recording of police. When Boston police charged a man for recording them punching a suspect, the man sued and won a ruling that videotaping public officials like police is protected by the First Amendment, given their power to deprive individuals of their liberties. Then there's the other pressure from street-level intimidation, like that officer we just saw, who misstated the law to demand someone stop recording, to outright retaliation, the man who recorded the infamous video of Eric Garner gasping, "I can't breathe." Well, his name's Ramsey Orta. He says the police have been targeting and harassing him since then by using other charges. Police say he was stopped for real and separate offenses. Now, even though he was Garner's friend, Orta says sometimes he even regrets not just minding my business because it put me in such a messed up predicament. A point we also heard from the person who recorded incriminating video of police shooting Walter Scott in the back in 2015. That video evidence was key to proving the officer lied about it, planting evidence of a taser near the dead body to allegedly stage the crime scene. Now, that was taped by Faden Santana, who was concerned enough to shoot the video, but then still worried that sharing it with the Scott family could lead to police retaliation. And there's evidence of that happening, of police cracking down on videos. When damning video of the Chicago PD shooting Laquan McDonald finally came out, there was not only a murder charge, but also charges for tampering with video evidence by police. The FBI later said it didn't find proof of that. And this week, there are new reports police may be hiding videos from the controversial shooting of Breonna Taylor. Then more broadly, some police allies, as well as conservative politicians, argue that making videos of police will have a cost. It will be met by police backing off their jobs and crime going up. This is a big deal. It's a kind of a vague threat that there will be new costs on us for having these videos exist. It's sometimes called a viral video or Ferguson effect.
There is growing outrage tonight after an unarmed African-American teenager was shot and killed by police in the St. Louis suburb of Ferguson, Missouri.
Protesters in Ferguson took to the streets protesting the use of force.
The depolicing effect, what I've called the Ferguson effect. He said cops have gone fetal.
Those few that are bad apples damage that relationship.
Gives the police the kind of feeling that if they do anything out of the ordinary, there's going to be 27 citizens with video cameras looking for a gotcha moment with them.
So as soon as some citizen videos provide a little scrutiny, you see this tidal wave of backlash for the cameras. And let me be clear, this was not just from commentators. It came from the top of the FBI. Then Director Comey responding to those videos and Black Lives Matter protests by making headlines where he claimed a, quote, viral video effect blunts police work. Comey had no data to support that, but he was siding with that anti-camera argument that making video evidence about police, documenting the reality of what some police do, that itself was bad because the police might stop working. In other words, videos of bad cops would stop good cops from being good cops. Here's how the FBI director put it.
I think that is still a potential. What I'm talking about is the sort of the viral video effect and changes in the way police may be acting and in the way communities may be acting in terms of how much information they share with police. I think it is the potential effect of marginal pullbacks by lots and lots of police officers that is changing some cities. I've heard it in lots of conversations privately with police leaders. And there's a perception that police are less likely to do the marginal additional policing that suppresses crime.
This was not that long ago. This matters. This is the pressure and blowback for the basic right exercised to document facts about police, and that was even within the Obama administration. President Obama viewed Comey's repeated claims as so extreme, he took the rare step of publicly rebutting the claim that this so-called video effect increased crime.
The data shows that we are still enjoying historically low rates of violent crime. What we can't do is cherry pick data or use anecdotal evidence to drive policy or to feed political agendas.
And that's not all. Here's what we didn't know at the time, but you can know now, tonight. Obama was so concerned about that FBI pressure against the right to record police that he secretly brought Comey into the White House for what was actually their first one-on-one meeting in 2 years to go over those Comey claims about policing that struck a discordant note with Obama, as Comey himself would later concede. Now, why does that recent history matter now? Well, let me tell you, I think there's room for both pessimism and reform here. Pessimism, that part of police culture, think about this, is so broken and one-sided that some of its members and leaders really believe video evidence is something to be used only against citizens, those who are policed, but never to be used to pursue facts and accountability for those who do the policing. But there are also signs of reform here because this clash and its reaction shows just how powerful this citizen-made evidence can be. Those videos can change minds, wresting power from the powerful, launching movements, power in the people who bore witness, who recorded, sometimes at personal risk, to upend years of state power backed by force. Returning to that point from Will Smith, racism is not new, but filming it is. America's, of course, been through all this before. There was tons of brutality in the Jim Crow South. One civil rights strategy, though, was to get it documented and broadcast. If it could not be immediately physically stopped, Martin Luther King reasoned, then it must be documented so America would be forced to face itself. After the Bloody Sunday Selma marches, Dr. King spoke about this specifically, saying, "We're here to say to the white men, we no longer will let them use clubs on us in the dark corners. We're going to make them do it in the glaring light of television," which required pressing national outlets and the northern, largely white press to put it on television.
With me in the studio is the Reverend Ralph Abernathy, who's just come from conducting this evening's march in Selma. Dr. Abernathy is Dr. Martin Luther King's second-in-command.
The picketing pressure the president said he would not be blackjacked by was partly on the sidewalk immediately in front of the White House.
Governor, last night you commended the people of Alabama for restraint during yesterday's march. And last night a white civil rights worker was killed. How do you feel about it this morning?
Well, of course, I feel badly.
Many black leaders at the time called out the press for its complicity in disappearing the facts and the horror. Then there were artists like Gil Scott-Heron, who would go on to say, famously, the revolution will not be televised, as he spoke of the limits of instant replay and police brutality on tape.
There will be no pictures of pigs shooting down brothers on the instant replay. There will be no pictures of pigs shooting down brothers on the instant replay. The revolution will not be televised, will not be televised, will not be televised, will not be televised. The revolution will be no rerun, brothers. The revolution will be live.
The revolution will be live. Well, times change, so does technology. Then people didn't have the means to record and broadcast. Now many do. And while any revolutionary song is open to interpretations, Gil Scott-Heron later said something worth reflecting on now. His song meant that the most profound revolution is the one in your mind.
We were saying that, like, that the thing that's going to change people, it'll just be something that you see, and all of a sudden you realize, I'm on the wrong page. I've got to get in sync with everyone else to understand what's happening in this country. But I think that the black Americans have been the only real diehard Americans here. We're the ones who marched, we're the ones who carried the Bible, we're the ones who carried the flag, we're the ones who tried to go through the courts. And being born American didn't seem to matter, because we were born Americans, but we still had to fight for what we were looking for.
You know, it takes a special kind of vision and patriotism to embrace the struggle for civil rights as membership in the club of diehard Americans. Now, we don't know what Mr. Heron or Dr. King would think of this ongoing revolution today. More of it playing out on our screens, televised and viral, and sometimes unavoidable even to those who've been trying to avoid and deny these American realities forever. But we do know right now the revolutionaries are out there, not only marching and organizing, but also taping even in the moments of deepest tragedy and violence, exercising their diehard American rights. And it's worth listening to them and their work so that we might someday curb the need for this grim civic duty. And they get the final word on this subject tonight.
My fear was to be here where I am today. But at the same time, I have this feeling, because I know that was an injustice, what I saw, and I want to come forward.
I didn't do it for pity. I didn't do it for fame. I did it so that the world knows that these police are not here to protect and serve us. They are here to assassinate us. They are here to kill us because we are black.
I posted a video last night and it just went viral. And everybody gasped. How do I feel? I don't know how to feel. And I just see him on the ground. I'm like, what is going on? I pull my camera out. And they killed this man. And I was right there. I was like 5